Hello and welcome. We are going to cover the features and functions of the Glock Model 17 Gen 3. Now this firearm is made by the Glock company out of Austria. They've been producing this model since 1982. There have been multiple iterations of this model, ranging from Gen 1 through Gen 5. And we'll go into more detail about some of that later. Now let's get into some of the features of the Glock 17. The Glock 17 comes standard with a 17 round magazine that bottom loads into the hand grip. Before we start handling the gun, we are going to talk about some gun safety rules that will keep you and the people around you safe. Now, rule number 1 is treat all firearms as if they are loaded. Rule number 2, never point a gun at anything you are not willing to destroy. Rule 3, keep your finger off the trigger until you are ready to fire. And rule 4, always be sure of your target and what is beyond it. If you will notice in front of me, the Glock has a magazine inserted, so I will be making sure to keep the gun safety rules in mind while handling the weapon. And that means assuming the gun is always loaded, keeping the barrel pointed away from myself, and keeping my finger off the trigger. To ensure that the gun is unloaded, we are going to release the magazine with this button here. This is the magazine release button. So I will push this button and this will let go of the magazine so I can pull it out. And I'll put it down here. Now, this gun may still be loaded. There could still be a round in that chamber. And to make sure that the gun is unloaded, we're going to pull the slide back and look in the chamber. If there was a bullet in the chamber, it would have ejected when I pull that slide back. Now we're going to leave it in the locked position with the slide catch. And that slide catch is also the method of releasing the slide back into a ready state. And you do that by pushing down on the slide catch so that the slide will snap forward suddenly. Make sure that your hands and fingers are away from the area that the slide interacts with the frame so you don't get hurt. Next, we will talk about the trigger mechanism. Now, Glock does not have an external safety like some other firearms. They have what's called the Glock Safe Action System. Essentially, it is designed so that the gun will not fire if it is dropped. But if you are pulling the trigger, the gun will fire. The Safe Action System consists of a few different mechanisms, but the one you will see is the one located on the trigger itself. There is a lever nested inside the trigger that will not allow the trigger to fire unless the lever is pulled in at the same time as the trigger. I mentioned earlier that this was a Gen 3, and there are a few ways to tell what generation you are looking at. Like these finger grip molds that are on the front here are taken away in the Gen 5, so you know that it's not a Gen 5. There's also a Picatinny rail on the front of this gun, which means that it is not a Gen 2. The Gen 1 and Gen 2 Glock 17s did not have the Picatinny rail, and they added it on the Gen 3s. Now that allows you to mount a laser or flashlight accessory that you desire to have. And I can also tell that it's not a Gen 4 because the Gen 4s had a backing plate on the grip that allowed you to expand your grip to a wider grip size. Alrighty, now for function. Now again, I will check to make sure that the chamber is empty. And to put the gun into a ready state, I'm going to put the magazine into the magazine chamber. At this point, the gun is not ready to fire. Because I just put the magazine in, there is no round in the chamber. That means that if I pull the trigger right now, the gun will not fire. To be able to chamber around and make the gun ready, I will pull the slide back, and if you'll notice there, as you pull the slide back, it is pulling a round out of the magazine and into the chamber. The gun is now live and ready to fire. And on the side here is an indicator that tells you if there is a round in the chamber ready to fire. When there is a round in that chamber, that little indicator will stick up above the surface, and that is your indicator that the gun is loaded. So to unload the gun, I will hit that magazine release button and pull the slide back so that the round is ejected from the chamber. The gun is now in a unloaded and safe condition. Now let's talk about the ammo used for the Glock 17. It uses a 9x19 millimeter round. It also goes by the name of the 9x19 Parabellum or the 9x19 NATO round. There's a few different names, other names that it goes by also. And the two types that I have here in front of me are the full metal jacket and the hollow point. The one in my hand right now is the hollow point. It is designed to expand when it meets resistance, causing a larger stopping power. Now, you will run into a point where your magazine will run out of rounds and you will need to reload. Now, to show you, I'm going to take some of these rounds out and show you how reloading works on this magazine. With most magazines, you push down on the spring and then you push the ammo down and back into the magazine. Like I said before, this magazine will hold 17 rounds, and as you go, it's going to get harder to push down on that spring. So what I like to use is this little loading tool. It gives me a little bit more leverage to push down on that spring and load the last few rounds without hurting my thumb. And I'll do the same with this other magazine. And that covers the basic features and function of the Glock 17. If you like this video, hit that like button and hit subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. I think I will be doing a features and functions of a AR-15 made by Bushmaster, the Carbon 15. And I'll see you guys.